Hello, boys and ghouls. It's your host with the most, Benjamin Dutil, with the Horror Heathen YouTube channel and the South Jersey Horror Podcast. And in this exciting episode, I am talking to director Scott Goldberg, who is the director of the movie Forest Hills and an excellent director, in my opinion. Very talented and has a very good eye for getting the right cast of people in the show or his movies. So, we're talking today about the movie Forest Hills and Shelley Duvall's last movie on screen, which is pretty sad. So
Yeah,
I'd like to know more about that. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, give please a warm welcome to Scott Goldberg. Goldberg, how you doing, sir?
good. How you doing, Benjamin? Thanks for having me. Yeah,
Oh, my pleasure,
appreciate
man.
it. Yeah, happy to answer any questions you got. The process of the film has been a long road. It's been started ever since 2022, so it's just been a long road, but we're here and finally getting the film out there, so we're excited. So yeah, I'm happy to talk and answer any questions you have about the movie and filmmaking, whatever you have. Sure.
Oh, this is fantastic. I bet you're excited about the rollout. I mean, it seems like everyone's excited. Where is the first premiere going to be at?
It's going to be October 4th. There's a variety of theaters. The website is tfhscreenings.com. So people will be able to check out and see where it's locally playing. I think on the 4th, we have Smod Castle Cinemas in New Jersey. And we have a variety of other places. A lot of places are playing it the weekend of the 11th. It's a variety of different show times. Some are playing it for one night on a Sunday on the first weekend. So it's kind of like just to kind of kick it off and see how the tickets do. And if a lot of places it does very well, then it kind of extends. We're an independent production, so but I felt it was very important to have it at least in cinemas because that's where movies are supposed to be seen. A dark place with strangers or friends and family and popcorn and candy, whatever people eat, and just it's just supposed to be like a communal experience where people enjoy being scared and seeing some cool stuff, especially with the horror film.
Now, I'm wondering, what made you pick the cast that were Furlong, Long, Jimmy Galen, Shelley Duvall?
Sure. So, I love working with them. I loved working with them, but to answer your question, the way I picked them was I've always been a fan of a lot of their work, and they were accessible as far as contacting their managers. Dee Wallace, her manager is listed on IMDb Pro. Edward Furlong's manager is listed on IMDb Pro as well. I think I found Stacey Nelkin's email from Halloween 3. Marianne Hagen I knew from social media like Facebook, and who was on your show, which I love that interview, by the way. And then also, so Shelley Duvall was more of a harder, phone number to get. So I used a website to, kind of like it's kind of like Yellow Pages, but it's different. It kind of maybe it's similar to that, but or White Pages, whatever it is to call up a person out of business. So similar to like a White Page, I think that's the one for people. And I contacted Dan Gilroy, her partner, and I said I'm interested in casting Shelley in a movie. We're filming this fall. Or is she interested? He's like, why don't you give her a call yourself, and etc. So I was a little nervous, so I kind of gave the number to my first AD, John Russell Crane, and I think he calls me back. I don't know if it's an hour or next day, whatever. He's like, "Dude, you're not gonna believe this. Like, Shelley Duvall is interested." I said, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's she wants to film." And at that time, we're thinking like, how do we get her down? Well, it wasn't. We thought everything was fine. She could travel on her own, but the issue was she had an issue with her foot. So she was unable to travel and she was in a wheelchair most of the time. So it was very hard for her to travel. So I was thinking of ways to like kind of get her on location and to be in New York. But it was impossible. So we had to actually send people her way. But a lot of the casting was done through just the internet and just letting people know we have a production, we would like to cast people. And yeah, it was just Edward Furlong I think took about 6 months to negotiate with his with his manager. It took a very long time because initially had to do with pay, and that it was, that he's supposed to be paid, an exorbitant amount more than what we had. But we just kind of kept on pushing the manager and saying, look, I really want to work with Eddie. I love his work at Detroit Rock City, Brain Scan, Terminator 2, grew up on that. So I just told him all that stuff, and I said, hey, we really want to work with him. And then we kind of talked about, well, maybe he can do this. Maybe he could do like a 1 day role instead of a 3 day role, or because originally it was going to be a voiceover for whatever amount of money it was. But I said I wanted to work with him, and I said no, I really want to work with him. So it's like a lot of back and forth, a lot of back and forth, a lot of hesitance on, I guess, Edward's part, and stuff. But I know that he was kind of making a comeback to a degree. My manager was telling me, he's like, your film's the first film that he's like doing his comeback at, because with him dealing with the drug issues in the past and being sober for a couple of years, it was cool to work with him. So yeah, so the casting was a whole variety of different things when it came to casting the film. Yeah, and then we had an agency, Kevin Tompkins, who knows the producer Scott Hansen, who like cast a majority of other people. And Chico I knew from like 20 years ago, Chico Mendes. Yeah,
It's awesome. Like your entire cast is like my childhood all wrapped up in one.
right.
So
Of course, Diane.
all these old school actors, man, it's great seeing them act again. I mean, especially Shelley Duvall. I mean, even if it was like a very brief role, but still seeing her come back was amazing. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, no,
she looked
she's
she looked great too in the movie. So
cool. Yeah, she lit up the room. I mean, Felissa Rose said that initially because I was FaceTiming her, FaceTiming for the first 2 or 3 shoots while the crew was in Texas. And then I actually had the opportunity to go down there and work with her because we were filming in Atlanta, and we were able to set up something. It was kind of like just kind of organic. We kind of said, hey, we want to shoot some scenes. Can we do that? And she's like, yeah, she's she's feeling good today. As far as physically, it was never like a mental situation or anything. It was always like physical. Her foot is making her, not feel great, stuff like that. Um, and so we worked around her mobility issues and what she, the issues that she had with getting out of her bed and making sure like Chico would help her and stuff, and move her to like the kitchen area, and then we film the scene with them eating breakfast, and then we move her back to her bed. But I think we, thinking about filming with Shelley Duvall, I think it was mainly when she was in her bed, we made sure that she stayed in her bed until we're ready to another scene. We weren't going to take her out of her bed to do another sequence and then bring her back to her bed. And I think at some point way after we filmed, when we were done filming and in post production, things just turned for the worse for her. She was. It was a hospice situation at some point, and when I was talking to Dan Gilroy, he was just telling me like she's on hospice, and I was like, what do you mean, like she's dying? He's like, well, Jimmy Carter, lived for 2 years and he was on hospice. Um, but yeah, it's and then there was kind of like a thought from one of my producers, Nick, who came down and was there. He gave Shelley flowers. He's like, dude, I don't think she's gonna last this long. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I don't know, it doesn't look good, man. I don't think she's gonna last long. I said, well, what can we do to help? So we tried to help best we could from outsiders, because Dan's living with her, and it's hard for 2 people who are, I guess, older, like in their 70s, to like I guess take care of themselves. Sometimes it's a situation, and so I think it was very hard for Dan because he had to take care of Shelley, and it's a partner who had the whatever issues she had in the past, right? So I think so. We tried to get her help. We tried to get her as much help as possible because we wanted her to have like a more comfortable bed, things like that. So Sarah, who runs the Instagram account on social media, the Shelley Duvall XO page on Instagram, she put together a fundraiser to help Shelley and get her a bed and stuff. So, it's just like anything, tragedy ends up being a tragedy, as far as people dying. You try if you're sort of involved in the process of being a friend of someone, you try your best to, help them the best you can. So, and we tried, and unfortunately, she succumbed to her, diabetes. As I think that was what Dan had said was the issue was the diabetes. So yeah.
Well, it seems to me she lives a long, healthy life, and she'll always be remembered. I mean, she's a legend, and
Yeah.
it sucks. It's unfortunate what happened. So, um,
Yeah, I
so
know. I
your
know.
movie, the Forest Hills, what for those who haven't seen it yet, can you like briefly describe like the concept behind it?
Sure. So that's about a man who endures a head trauma in the woods. And that was like an initial idea early on. The idea was about a guy who awakens with a bloody victim next to him, and he's running through the woods bloody, and there's always a cabin. So that was kind of like the startup of the story. So Chico Mendes plays the character Rico, who has trouble kind of, you know, deal, dealing or understanding reality, and he befriends a friend, Billy, played by Edward Furlong, who he tries to find help in. I think that, and as you saw, like the relationship with Billy and Rico, I think was very important that we show, as no spoilers, obviously, but later on, as we show that it's very complicated situation, and we realize that maybe friends aren't as they seem, and they could be very mean, and this world can be very mean, and I think mental health, right? Like we think about people in like group homes who need to be there, because if not, people would be taking advantage of them. I think there are safe places for people who have mental illness that need help, need to be medicated, and it's so this film was literally about that, about mental health, and the fact that um, there that our society can get really cruel sometimes. And I think that was a very important thing to say in a horror film. So yeah.
Well, I must say that talking to Chico, he's a great guy. I mean, I
Yeah.
interviewed him first, and it was that thing was Stacy, then Marianne. So trying to get Dee Wallace, but she's almost damn nearly impossible. So
Uh, yeah. I noticed that she just does, she yeah, it's hard. Like, she's in so many films too. It's like she's in like 200 plus I don't know if she's in 300, whatever the number is, but she's in so many films that, like, I think the main things that she'll talk about are, or probably would go on to talk about on any type of show, would be the typical, which is Cujo, ET, stuff like that. I've noticed that in every show, she rarely talks about any of her new projects. She's always busy. She's always working, always working on different projects. So she's a tough one for sure. She's a tough one. Edward is a tough one too. Edward's really hard to get on an interview. But maybe we could try, and we'll see what happens. So that'd be pretty cool.
and Felissa, I'm trying to get her too, and she's almost nearly impossible to hold as well. So,
Yeah.
but
She's very, 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 I know she's been extremely busy. I was talking to my friend Nick yesterday on his podcast, Primal Screen Podcast. And we were talking about, like, he said, we were talking about sleepaway camp. And I said, it's so interesting that Felissa Rose is just one of those people who I feel is like sincere. Sometimes people put on a mask, in our society, but I feel like I'm just envious of how like happy she is. I mean, like, it's like insanely amazing how happy she is and how much she loves being around people and how appreciative she is. And I think, in our society, sometimes, with the ways we're grown up or the ways we live or whatever, we can become numb to certain things sometimes, and I think it's hard, right? So someone like her, I feel like she's such a pure soul, and I feel like her and Shelley really connected. And there's a video that's coming out soon that shows Shelley Duvall and Felissa Rose in between takes for The Forest Hills. Scott Hansen, the DP, was filming, and I noticed, as I was like looking at like stuff to promote the film, I noticed that the way that they were communicating, like the way that just Felissa Rose was smiling with her. So you actually see the constant. It's edited to like a 2-minute piece, but you see, as they're doing their lines and stuff, and in between takes, like Felissa saying, "You're doing great. Oh, you're doing great," and like you could see her care for someone like Shelley, um, And even another one quick story was Nick Greystone, one of the producers. He's the one who brought Shelley flowers on the day when we went down after one of the Atlanta shoots. We went down and he brought her flowers, and then she was acting in the scene. And he said, and she was like doing the dialogue and stuff. And then she turns to him after, I yelled cut. And she's like, "Was that any good?" And he's like, "Shelley, you're doing amazing." You know what I'm saying? So it's like sometimes I think someone like Shelley, she gets out of it for so long, it's, I don't know, it might become foreign to them. But I mean, she stepped right back into the role and I think did extremely well. I don't know. How long ago did you see the cut? Was it the summer before? Maybe, do you remember? Or I don't know.
I think it was last summer, really. When after it was right after I interviewed Chico. So
Yeah,
yeah,
because we filled out a lot. We had a lot more Shelley. There was like we kind of added like a beginning, a middle, and end to her character. So some things kind of life imitates art, and art imitates life to a degree with some of the situations. But but yeah, she said it was the hardest role she's ever played because Mama was really so mean.
yeah.
She was very mean and dig deep. And when I told her, I said, uh, there's a scene where she's in bed. She's like, "Rico, what did you do to me?" I said, "You really gotta like sell it, like really like Rico, what did you do to me?" Like as if something's really wrong. And so maybe about two takes, she really got it. She like was screaming, and it was her acting, and it was, and I don't think she's ever done that type of thing in a film. And it was I'm not saying it was taxing or hard for her. I'm just saying I think it was the hardest role, the hardest type of character to play because Mama was so mean and she was not like that. So that was like an interesting thing that I'll always remember for sure.
Well, if she can survive The Shining, she can survive the Forest Hills. So
Did you see they had an AI thing on YouTube? It was with The Shining. It was like what the scene would look like in AI. They like used AI to generate the scene that is a deleted scene, like where Shelley Duvall's character Wendy Torrance was in the hospital, and like I think it was Dr. Ullman who came to her, and it's very interesting. You look it up, like the Shining AI ending sequence. There was a sequence written, but I don't know if it was ever filmed though. It wasn't filmed, but they used like AI to kind of like show like what it would potentially look like. It was really interesting, actually. Yeah,
I'd take a look at that.
really,
That sounds
really cool.
fascinating. So, what
Yeah,
else can you tell us about the Forest Hills? I mean, um, favorite
yeah,
scenes, how long did it take to film, etc.
yeah. It took a while. I mean, we filmed the initial 2 weeks, and then there were a bunch of reshoots. But as far as just remembering the process, I remember the first 2 weeks I was very sick. I didn't have COVID, but I don't know if it was like laryngitis or something. I felt bad, but I had like laryngitis or something. But like I remember having like a hoarse voice. So watching like some of the stuff that like Alex Label, one of the videographers, or Brian Michael Finn, one of the videographers, shot, it just brings me back to like remembering like being sick. I was feeling a little under the weather, but I wasn't feeling like sick to where I couldn't do it. I was excited, because all my life I've been doing independent stuff. So to actually have like somewhat of a crew, and people that like were looking to just make a good movie, that was nice to have. So it was just the process of like working on the movie, and then kind of fleshing it out. The movie is two films in a way, because the initial film, when we went to Tubi, one of the sales agents who was no longer the sales agent of the film, for mutual reasons, unfortunately couldn't sell the film, and we just wanted to go kind of a different direction. He had spoken to someone at Tubi, and they're like, "Well, it's very drama. It needs to be more horror." And so we kind of said, "Okay, well, let's make it more horror." So we kind of revamped the whole first like 30 minutes. So I don't know if you'd seen the version, probably not, of Rico in the woods talking to people, saying like, you got to be careful of the beasts in these woods. So it changed from Rico being a sympathetic, someone who's like crying and like a head trauma group, to someone who's more of like a conspiracy theorist, talking about UFOs and werewolves and beasts. So we kind of like made it more that he's off the bat. It's not that he's like a sad person that's, that's being hurt, but more of a person who's a maniac, And I think that gave us more opportunity to make it more horror and more horror based with blood and chopping of limbs and, stuff like that. So, so certain things like that. So we added a lot and extended on a lot of stuff. And, every 5-6 minutes, we tried to do something crazy, because, the original version was very slow. It was a little all over the place. It wasn't a great cut. So, so after Smiley Castle Cinemas and the initial screenings, we decided that let's fix this up because we wanted to find a distributor. We really need to fix it up. So it's a mutual agreement with my investor and I. But then we kind of just made the movie and here we are. Now we're just finally releasing it. And I like your is that your Halloween 2 mask in the background or?
That is the animatronic actually. It moves back and
But
forth. So
like the blood is when he gets shot in part 2. Yeah.
yeah.
That's very nice. How much? Well, that's cool. I got to get one for this Halloween. You got it
Well,
last year, or how long you had it?
no, it was actually an engagement gift for my fiance. It was like $300 for
Oh,
Spirit
cool.
Halloween. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
nice.
and
Very
I got
cool.
her in return. I got her Ghostface because that's her favorite character. So
Oh yeah, nice. That is, yeah. I mean, Ghost. The Scream franchise. It's amazing, right? Like, uh, there's something about watching the original, and it just takes you back to that time in the mid '90s, like 1996. So it's just something nostalgic about that for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people as well. And it's amazing at conventions, like you really see, Matthew Lillard and everyone when they Neb Campbell and Jamie Kennedy and everyone Skeet Ulrich, they all get so much love, and it's cool also to see it with the Blair Witch Project crew as well, like Heather and Josh and everyone. So it's kind of cool to see like that the '90s horror, is still prevalent. There's still so many fans who just love that still to this day.
Heather and Josh is still at the top of my list. I'm still trying to get them too.
Yeah.
So
Mike is pretty easy to. If I've been talking to him. If you're interested, I could see if I could get you connected. Yeah, Mike Williams and stuff. I know he's still like doing some acting too. I think Josh is too. Heather obviously does her not yoga. It's like kind of like other earthly stuff. I don't really know what she does, but I don't know if you follow her or not. But she does. Her name has changed. I think it's like Rents or something. Ray Hance or something like that. She like changed her name. Yeah. But she's doing conventions, and it's always good to see how appreciative everyone is of the fans, because as we know, the fans are what makes a film successful. If fans don't go see a movie, if fans don't support a film, if fans don't do anything, then what is the movie? And I think sometimes a lot of celebrities don't think of that. They're not rooted in reality anymore because they're then become part of like you know egos can become a big thing for sure. So but yeah, and I've always felt like Hollywood actors, like those are the type of people like I personally wouldn't want to work with. I feel like when there's people who have like lines on their face, or people who look interesting and look whatever, I don't know what the right word is, not like just look odd or unique. Like those are the type of people like those are the type of people like who I feel like should play leads in films. Hollywood has their thing where they can do all the stuff with like the beautiful people and the Botox and things like that. But I feel like independent cinema and things like that, is a much better. It's a much better opportunity to work with people who are interesting looking versus beautiful. So I knew a
like
producer
Chico.
that yeah, exactly. Like Chico, yeah, for sure. Because I knew a producer who said I only like to cast pretty women as leads. So that's cool and all, but like, I guess if that's what you like to do it. I mean, look, is anyone beautiful, whether a guy or a male or female, good to look at, and it's good for like a lead role, sure. But at the same time, like, give me someone who's like down and gritty and like has like wrinkles and like maybe an odd face. I love that kind of stuff. So one of the guys who is in the reshoots, Vernon Gravdell, for example, one of the other producers, he has like that kind of look. He's Norwegian, and he like is very lanky, kind of has like a slack jaw, talks like this, and he's just he's like kind of hunched over. It's like it's really it's he's a character in itself, and I love him. So, and I've known him for years. So people like that, who there was one time we were shooting a documentary off the grid survivalism and frugality, and he was like missing a tooth, and I was like, it's like I'm gonna get my tooth soon. Don't worry. I said, no. Keep the tooth out. I love it. It was awesome.
In my opinion, I don't think it's what they look like. Is the question is, can they act? Can they memorize
Exactly.
lines?
Right.
So,
That makes
I
sense too.
mean,
Yeah, yeah. There could be people out there, yeah, who just who look gritty and the way I want to see them, but maybe they just can't act. There was this one guy I worked with a long time ago, looked really tough, but he had a voice like this. I was like, oh, no, I don't know if I could have you play like a guy who's in like the army or something. I don't know. He was just it just didn't seem like it would fit for me personally. But he did some stuff. The guy did acted some stuff. So it just wasn't the right, person I wanted to work with, I guess, at that moment in time. But all good. Yeah.
I mean, not to knock on Adrian Brody, but his nose. I mean, not the most attractive guy in the world, but he can act. So,
Yeah, and even like Owen Wilson, right? It's like amazing.
sorry,
And he
Adrian. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That makes fun of your nose.
yeah,
You're a
I
great
got, I
actor.
got,
You got a Golden Globe. You're good.
yeah. I love Joaquin Phoenix, and right, he has like a cleft lip. So I mean, it's really cool that people can use like what other people see him as, like not birth defects or just differences. I'm not saying Agent Brody has a birth defect. I'm just saying, like, I mean, do they even consider like a cleft lip a birth defect? I don't know. Maybe I don't know, but people get that changed, of course, all the time. But um, I love Joaquin Phoenix, and I've been vegan for like 20 some plus years. He's been vegan, so that's kind of cool. And he's a crazy actor. Like he could get into like I mean, and Joker was like insane. I mean, that was just an amazing role, in my personal opinion. I mean, especially the scene with Robert De Niro in the talk show. Ooh, crazy. So, but
It,
yeah,
it, it, he amazed me in that role. Like he dropped so much weight just for that role. You like people will go and put their bodies that kind of stuff. I mean that takes commitment.
for sure.
I commend people for that kind of stuff. So
Right. Yeah, no. And I think they also right. They have to make sure that their vitals are good and everything, and that they're, and that they're not like, yeah. I mean, you have to if you're gonna, like Christian Bale, right? What was it? What was that movie that he like lost a ton of weight in? Like he was like so skinny. But anyway, whatever the name is of the film, I don't remember. But is it The Pianist? Maybe I'm not sure. But he was like so skinny, like not no fat on him. It was like really crazy to see. But people will do that. Yeah, there's method. I don't know if he's a method actor, but people will go to the extents to get into a character, and I think that's kind of like the journey that an actor takes, right? Like they will do what they have to do to believe who they are, to feel that they are that person. So and that they're as close to feeling like that, because I think when a lot of them live in that element and live in those characters, even like Jim Carrey, like right, like in like Man on the Moon, like I heard he was very hard to work with because he kept on like there was one thing on YouTube. This YouTuber's like he was using like as an excuse to be an asshole to people, and I love Jim Carrey. I'm just saying what the guy said, but he was like using that like as an excuse to like really bother people and act like Tony Clifton or like as Andy Kaufman and stuff. But if that's his process, and that's his process. But yeah, I mean, there's always people always have perspective of other people, and I always say like don't judge unless you actually know the person, right? Because with the internet nowadays, there's so much hate, and once if one person says something, other person's gonna hate, and they might not even know the person, so yeah, so I think there's a little something like that in our society as well. Yeah.
I think we kind of deviated from the subject here, which is okay,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Sure. Yeah. Of
This has been
course.
a
Yeah.
great interview. I love talking to people. I can go off topic anytime, and I
Right.
apologize.
No, it's
So,
fine. It's all good.
um, so jump back in the Forest Hills. So
Sure.
I noticed watching the movie, everything is like filmed outside in the woods, et cetera, et cetera. Um, Challenges. What challenges did you have to overcome in order to film that movie?
Well, the biggest challenge for me mentally is going to be the like the fact that there's sun. I hate sun. I don't like working with sun. I love cloudy days. Like if you watch a good example, Long Legs, for example, Bleak. Oh my God, there's just a feeling to that film, and like The Witch, Robert Eggers, the Witch. Um, wait, did he do that? Did he direct that? Robert Eggers? I think so. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But
I
The
gotta look it
Witch,
up
like it's like
later.
just it's just like it's like bleak. It's like very bleak, that movie. So like I love days like that. So I would love to shoot on days. So that's like the biggest thing for me is like mentally, not having a day like that. Because I grew up on independent films where I'm shooting with a video camera, and when you have blown out highlights, you have blown out highlights. Meaning like the like when something's like really bright white. I just don't like that. But that's just me personally. But it's all good. But challenges were like, yeah, just not having the type of money that we wanted to like really do big things with it. We really wanted to do bigger things with the Forest Hills, like burn Mama's house down, butcher some more bodies, in the film, and bury them in the woods. There's all these different things that was limited. So when you had the Forest Hills, you were limited to not knives and other ways of like killing people, choking, things like that. So that was a limitation. Those were the limitations right there. And then also like just I guess being able to like film more, sequences that we wanted to film. So that was the biggest limitation with the budget, I'd say, which happens a lot in independent film. You don't have enough budget, you have to do some reshoots, and then you're out of budget, then you gotta get more money, and you gotta fundraise and all that stuff. So that whole process that could be stressful.
Well, I think independent films are actually kicking ass this year. So, I mean, you see a lot of independent directors being very successful, and it warms my heart knowing this has happened because you overcome these challenges while making these movies, and yet a lot of the audience doesn't realize what you have to face. So, but yet once you get your film, it's put together, it's produced, it's published, it's put out there in public, and then people are like,
Right.
oh shit, this is a really good movie. So I have a really good feeling that The Forest Hill is gonna blow the box office away.
Oh, cool.
Because you got all these good actors in it. I mean, shit, man, you got D. Wallace, Felicity Rose, Shelley Duvall,
Right.
Stacey Nelkin, Mary Hagan, all these phenomenal actors in this movie.
Right.
And there's a
Cool.
lot of people that from my generation are definitely going to go watch this movie. I mean,
Oh, cool.
it's
Yeah.
if they don't, they need a swift kick in the ass. So just
Yeah, that's what it's for. It's like people, like I'm 40, so I grew up on like 80s films and stuff. So I feel like the feeling of that is there, although it's not an 80s film. It has those elements of the tone. I think tonality is so important in movies, right? Like with Carpenter's Halloween, right? I mean, just think about that for as you love Halloween, as do I. One of my favorites, tied with The Shining and Day of the Dead. But with Halloween, there was just something about it feels like Halloween night. The trick or treaters outside, and then there's no trick or treaters. It's just Michael Myers, the shape and darkness. So it's like there's just something about that movie that um it never gets old. It still holds up, which is great. Sure, there's some elements that are late 70s, but that's the beauty of it. And Deborah Hill writing the girls' dialogue, right, which is good because I'm sure Carpenter would have had a hard time writing that. I know I would. And then just hearing all these stories about Halloween in general and how it kind of comes to be, and and the trials and tribulations that they go through. But yeah, so sorry for going off tangent, but yeah, it's one of my favorites, and I'm sure it's yours as well. So
obviously.
yeah, yeah. And
So let me
Halloween three
wrap
got a
things.
bad rep for many years, but thankfully people came around and love it and see it for what it is.
Oh,
So yeah,
sure as shit. When I heard Tom Atkins was going to be the Monster Mania in Pennsylvania, I was definitely
yeah,
going. I had to get his autograph, so which I did, which was amazing. And there was
yeah,
no line for him, which really baffled me. I'm like, why is there no line for Tom Atkins? This is just
yeah.
it's and I walked up there and I got my autograph, picture taken. I was happy the horse than a flying horse shit, man. This is great. So
Yeah, yeah, that's
so as
cool,
we
man.
wrap
Yeah,
things
Tom
as
Atkins.
yeah, we got to wrap things up
Sorry,
a little bit. I'm running out of time. So
yep.
um
Okay.
So yeah, the release of this movie is when today.
The release for the Blu-rays today, yeah, so September 13th, 2024. It's available on watchthehorsehills.com. Just came out there, and then in cinemas on October 4th, and people can go check it out. TFHscreenings.com.
You hear that, folks? TFHscreenings.com. Get off your asses, get your computers, log in, create an account, do what you got to do to watch this movie. Okay, I saw the pre-screening. It's an awesome movie. You're gonna absolutely love it. Trust me. This is coming from
Right.
the horror heathen. If you don't like it, kiss my ass. So, eh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the talented, the gifted, the awesome Scott Goldberg. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wish nothing but success in your career. And I have one quick question for you. Is there going to be a sequel?
Yes. I mean, if there's a studio that wants to do it, but yes, it's open for one. Correct. Because I know you saw the old version. We changed some things, and you'll see. It's there's definitely an opening. So yeah.
So, all right, let me know what I got to do to make the sequel happen because I want to make it happen.
Sounds good. Let's get you in it.
All right, thank you for your time. You have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on the big screen.
Thanks, Benjamin. Talk to you soon.
All right,
Thanks.
take care.